Prompting for GPT-01 works a bit differently than GPT-4o. It's more detailed and complex, kind of like the model itself. If you really want to tap into GPT-01's advanced reasoning powers, you've got to know how to talk to it the right way, what it can handle, and where it falls short. In this video, I'm going to walk you through everything. Like always, how to turn GPT-01 on, how to craft prompts that get you top-tier answers, all the different versions that are out there, how to deal with data and file formats, and a bunch of other cool stuff. Trust me, it's a lot, but get comfy. Once you get the hang of GPT-01, you won't want to go back. Comparing GPT-01 and 4o is kind of like choosing between two different rides at the theme park. GPT-01 might be slower, sometimes you'll wait a couple of minutes for an answer, but it's got this incredible reasoning engine under the hood. It doesn't just fire off random guesses, it actually works through each step of the logic, almost like a real human thinking out loud. That's why GPT-01 is a dream for stuff like math, coding, or any deep reasoning tasks. GPT-4o, on the other hand, is lightning fast. Answers usually pop up in seconds, so if you're in a hurry or don't need the deep dive, 4o's speed might be all you need. When it comes to response quality, it's interesting because 01 and 4o can give you different answers to the exact same prompt. In my experience, 01 comes out on top more often. For example, I asked them both for slogan and a short ad text for a new electric scooter using trendy youth slang. Okay, GPT-4o's reply was decent, creative, used emojis, had a simple format, but felt a bit cookie cutter. GPT-01's response looked plain on the surface, no emojis. I actually liked its slogan better because it sounded more natural and less like a template. Then I tried this prompt. Once again, 01 nailed it. The code was solid, plus I got more detailed explanation, which is perfect if you're still learning programming. 4o wasn't bad, just not as in-depth. Another big win for GPT-01 is its huge context window, up to 4 times larger. So you can throw massive amounts of data at it, or get really long answers back. I also get super focused on being correct, almost to the point of nitpicking, but that's actually a bonus if accuracy is your main goal. Just keep an eye on file size limits because it's easy to get carried away when you've got that much space. Even though GPT-01 is awesome in many ways, it's not perfect. For starters, it's way less multimodal than GPT-4o. While 4o can handle text, images, audio, and even has vision, 01 only deals with text and text-based images. So no PDFs, no spreadsheets, none of that extra stuff. No vision, like I said, meaning no object recognition. I use that feature a ton on my phone, so it's kind of disappointing. Plus, there's no image generation in 01, so say goodbye to DALL-E here. Another pain is the strict message limit. With the $20 a month plus plan, you only get 50 messages a week, which can vanish in a blink if you're really into chatting. If you want to go all in on 01, it might be worth forking out $200 for the Pro plan instead. And it also gives you GPT-01 Pro, which is even beefier version, plus extra Sora credits. We've actually got a full guide on Sora, so check that out if you want to dive deeper. Sometimes when I look at ChatGPT, I wonder, did they really do R&D in this interface, or maybe they just used Crispy and created the full design of the whole site in 5 minutes. The sponsor of today's video, AppSumo, a software marketplace for entrepreneurs and small businesses, has created Crispy. Crispy is the AI-powered platform that transforms your product ideas into fully functional app prototypes in minutes without the need for any coding or design experience. As someone who's experimented with many AI tools, I'm genuinely impressed by how Crispy handles what used to take entire teams, weeks of painstaking design and development work. There are 2 main paths: quick start mode, which generates a single project page, or full project mode, that produces an entire multi-page prototype with interactive buttons, transitions, animations, and even basic user flows. In both cases, all I have to do is describe my idea, and Crispy builds out the initial design in minutes. If I want to tweak or regenerate something, like swapping layouts, adding new pages, or refining certain elements, I could do it simply by describing the change I want. I also like the fact that I can import assets from my existing Figma projects to keep consistent branding, and export everything back to Figma, Crispy automatically creates user stories, sitemaps, and product flows as I iterate, so I never have to worry about outdated documentation. Once the prototype looks and feels right, I can export a full React codebase. And I can run the whole project in my browser, go through menus, see how everything works. Crispy removes many of the roadblocks that slow down the designing process. And here's the best part. You can get lifetime access to Crispy AI right now on AppSumo for a one-time price. Click the link below and grab this deal before it's gone. O1 model isn't just about strong logic skills, it's got a whole extended family. The O1 line actually spawned O3 Mini and O3 High, which are like smaller siblings. They may not be as beefy in some areas, but they're still pretty specialized, and one of them, the O3, powers a feature called Deep Research. What does Deep Research do? It's like ChatGPT on a treasure hunt. Instead of shooting off a quick answer, it goes digging through websites, PDFs, even images, and then stitches everything it finds into one giant detailed report. If you are a subscriber, you can flip it on by clicking the Deep Research toggle under the prompt window. It's basically that secret button you never knew you had. Every answer you get in Deep Research mode comes with links to the original sources, so you can check the facts yourself. Best of all, you can use this feature with any model. If you need that heavy-duty reasoning, stick with O1. If you're in a hurry, switch to 4.0 for quicker replies. Just be prepared, this won't be as fast as something like Perplexity because ChatGPT is actually crawling the web in real time. It might take 5, 10, or even 30 minutes depending on how big or tricky your question is. Honestly, it's up to you and what you need, but even for small questions, you'll probably see a big difference in detail. 4.0 might give you the short and sweet version, while O1 with Deep Research can unlock a treasure trove in-depth info. If you've got the time and really want to dive deep, it's definitely worth the wait. When it comes to GPT-O1, your prompt strategy needs to lean into its strength, deep reasoning. Everything you learned about prompting for GPT-4o still applies here, so if you haven't checked out our GPT-4o guide, go take a look. It will lay the groundwork for what we're about to cover. But remember, as we've already seen, given the same exact prompt to O1 and 4o can produce totally different results. Tip number 1. One of the easiest ways to get GPT-O1 to really dive deep is to add a phrase like detailed report to your prompt. For instance, please give me a detailed report on the history of artificial intelligence, including key achievements and dates, with sources. Even though O1 naturally leans toward thorough answers, spelling it out like this pushes it to be extra detail-oriented. It also helps guide the format of the response so it's more structured and to your liking. Of course, adding a phrase like detailed report or provide a structured breakdown of or write a white paper on, give an in-depth analysis of, etc. will use up more tokens, but trust me, it's often worth it for the extra clarity. Plus, you will notice prompts for O1 can sound more serious and professional this way, with richer detail and tighter formatting. You can still keep it casual if you want, but if you go too conversational, you might lose some depth in the final answer. Here's something that might surprise you. If you don't turn on Deep Research, GPT-O1 isn't connected to the web for real-time data. Just like GPT-4o, its training data is limited. That means if you ask for anything current, like fresh news or live stock prices, it either won't have that info or it will just say can't provide real-time updates. The simple fix, collect whatever data you need yourself and feed it into ChatGPT either in separate prompts or as one big prompt. If you have images or graphs to analyze, attach them as images. That's pretty much the only way to get O1 or O1 Pro to work with the latest info. Think of it like being O1's personal data assistant. You do the research, legwork, and then O1 does its magic. From our ChatGPT guide, you might remember that step-by-step reasoning was something we often had to ask for explicitly. With GPT-O1, you might get a bit of that by default, but trust me, it still helps to say it out loud. The model is still kind of the black box, and for bigger, more complex tasks, asking for step-by-step can really make a difference. It's not always noticeable for simple questions, but if you're tackling something detailed, like a thorough breakdown of climate change causes, it's worth it. Something like this. That gives GPT-O1 clear marching orders to outline its thinking, instead of just jumping straight to the conclusion. If you're diving into scientific research with GPT-01, make sure to ask for citations. It's a simple extra step, but can really pump up the quality of the info you get. Getting direct citations without any AI processing in between not only makes your argument more factual, but also way more trustworthy. This works best if you have deep research turned on, because that's when ChatGPT actually searches the web for info. Deep research already drops links to sources, but adding explicit citations is like giving your data a gold star. Plus, you can be picky. Ask specifically for authoritative and reputable sources, or even mention certain journals or regions if you want extra precision. It's one of those little tweaks that makes a big difference in the final result. Make your requests crystal clear and direct. I know that sounds like prompting 101, but it's especially important with a model that leans so heavily on reasoning. Too many random details can throw ChatGPT off course, so keep it focused by stating exactly what you want, straight to the point. If you need something specific, say so clearly. The less guesswork GPT-01 has to do, the better your final answer will be. If you've got deep research turned on, try kicking off your prompt with find. For example, like this. When you do this, you're telling ChatGPT to lean on whatever it digs up during its web search, instead of relying on older or incomplete training data. This helps cut down on outdated info and those dreaded AI hallucinations. That said, find is more like a handy bonus than a requirement. Just having deep research on will make ChatGPT look things up anyway, but adding find upfront can give it a little extra nudge to focus on newer and more relevant info. Honestly, GPT-01 really shines when you feed it your own data rather than having it scour external sources. Just be sure to provide that data as text or images. If the dataset is massive, it might choke, and your analysis could come out half-baked. Also, context is everything for 01. It was important for 0, sure, but for 01 can literally change the entire logic flow. For example, tell it you are prepping something for teenagers, and it will dial back the complexity and keep the language easier to digest. Or say you're working on a bill for politicians, 01 will highlight the policy angles that matter to them. So if you want the best output, hammer home the who, what, and why right up front. That extra context goes a long way. Context is actually one of the parts of that 4-step prompting technique for ChatGPT. I've been using that technique for a while now, and let me tell you, the results are fantastic, a whole new level. So check out that guide on Geek Academy and follow along, and that's just one of the guides. Every day we post useful info to make you even better at AI. Only fact-checked, hand-picked data, all tested by our team and proven to work. If you need to know how to get the most out of Claude, we've got a guide waiting. Want to know more about Midjourney prompting? There's an exclusive video with new prompting techniques. Here's a guide to the newly updated custom instructions with images and audio explanations for each tip. If you say you are a YouTuber looking for help, we also have curated lists of AI tools, each with my personal take on the tool. You can conveniently filter the tools, and we've even partnered up with developers to give you exclusive deals on their tools. And the latest AI news with detailed analysis, very convenient tool for finding the right AI tool for you. You just call out and ask. Geek Academy is your one-stop solution for leveling up your AI skills. Our goal is to make Geek Academy the biggest and most valuable AI platform, so click the link in the description and become a part of our incredible community. One quirk I've noticed with 01 is that it can get so wrapped up in its reasoning that it sometimes forgets to make things look pretty. That's why I always spell out exactly how I want my answer formatted. You could do something like this. Sometimes I'll ask for bullet points or headings like H1, H2, or H3, whatever makes it easier for me to use later. If you're doing any kind of copywriting or presenting this info somewhere fancy, that extra formatting step can save you a lot of hassle. This next one is more of a nice to have, follow-up questions. In theory, they can give you more depth and nuance, but keep in mind that GPT-01 isn't exactly speedy. Too many follow-ups can bog things down and slow your workflow to a crawl. So if time is tight, limit your follow-ups. But if you've got a big project and really want multiple perspectives, go ahead and ask away. Just be prepared for a bit of a wait. If you're using deep research, don't forget to ask ChatGPT to actually vet the sources it finds. It won't do that on its own. By telling it to evaluate a source's credibility, you can pinpoint any weak spots in the logic. Keep it simple, like please read source 2 and briefly describe how reliable it is and what it says. You can also ask for extra sources if you want to be extra sure. After all, the more solid the sources, the stronger your final argument or your final video script will be. A lot of the same prompting tricks that work on 4.0 will also work on 0.1, but 0.1 takes them to a whole new level. For instance, assigning a role is a big deal here. On GPT 4.0, saying something like, imagine that you are a marketer, basically changes the model's perspective and language. In 0.1, it does the same thing, but you'll notice it's even more pronounced. Whenever I've tested the same prompt with a role versus without one, the version with a specific role almost always gives better answers. But don't just pick any random role. Choose words that really match what you need. If it's a marketing task, specifically state the marketing skills you want, experience in digital campaigns, or knowledge of social media trends, for example, or describe the role and abilities you want GPT-0.1 to have, like a historian specializes in ancient Egypt, or an experienced game developer. That extra detail works great for the context tips I mentioned before. One of the coolest strengths of GPT-0.1 is math and coding. Handles both really well, so if you have any math tasks lying around, go for it. Just keep in mind it might not handle super advanced stuff perfectly. It's definitely better at math than 4.0, but I wouldn't totally rely on it for massive, high-stakes calculations. Coding is a different story. You can ask it for almost anything programming related, and it usually nails it. Just be straightforward in your prompts. Show a code snippet and say, where's the book? Ask it to write new code for you, or get it to explain complicated code line by line in plain English. Because 0.1 is so good at both math and coding, you can even combine them. Ask it to solve a math problem by writing code, or treat a math question like a coding task. It's a super versatile approach that often gives you clear and accurate answers. I mentioned earlier that GPT-0.1 can read text and images, and it's worth repeating. Take advantage of this feature whenever you can. Its deep reasoning actually goes beyond just raw logic. It also has a better grasp of visual data like graphs, charts, and diagrams compared to GPT 4.0. It can't do object recognition, that's more of a vision feature, but can handle patterns and text-heavy images way better than 4.0. So if you've got a complicated diagram or a chart you want interpreted, throw it at 0.1. You will see just how much deeper it can go. When you're using deep research, it's super helpful to specify how many sources you want, how you want ChatGPT to handle them, and to mention that it should collate those sources. That's nice to have in your prompt. Collating sources gives you a more balanced overview without dragging in a bunch of random details you don't actually need. Even with deep research and better reasoning, it's still worth fact-checking any critical info, but don't waste your time doing it manually. Just ask ChatGPT to do it for you. For example, simply using the phrase "check if this is true" can make a huge difference. And yes, this works best with deep research turned on, so ChatGPT can actually go see if Kathy Wood's title checks out. A major piece of advice for 4.0 was to break tasks into steps, and it's just as valuable for 0.1. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, but dividing your prompt into smaller chunks helps 0.1 stay focused and reduces the risk of hallucinations. Plus, it's easy. No need for multiple prompts, just structure your prompt with step 1, step 2, etc. To be honest, prompting can be easy in ChatGPT. You start with basics and slowly make your prompts more complex. And at Geekademy, we have prompting guides for all difficulty levels, all with easy-to-follow explanations. It's a fantastic way to progress. Remember, you can switch models on the fly, but only downward. So if you're doing heavy-duty reasoning with 0.1, you can later drop down to 0.3 high for faster answers, or even down to 4.0 if you need a different angle, like speed or different feature set. Just keep in mind you can go back once you've switched, so plan your workflow accordingly. One piece of advice I give all ChatGPT users is to keep your chats organized. And it's extra important for GPT-o1. If you start a conversation about a specific topic, don't suddenly switch gears to something unrelated. Overloading o1's memory can cause it to hallucinate or mix things up, so if you need to move on a brand new subject, start a new chat. It helps keep the reasoning clean and reduces the risk of confusion. Also, don't forget to use projects. They won't magically improve the AI's quality, but they will make your workflow way smoother. Set up separate projects for every big branch of reasoning you're working on, and give each chat in that project a name. For instance, you could have one chat for diet tips, another for writing, another for coding, etc. That way, you won't mix up your tasks, and trust me, you will feel way more organized. And be patient. AI isn't perfect, makes mistakes, get things wrong, and sometimes answers in unexpected ways. If your prompt doesn't work the first time, don't stress, just tweak it, clarify what you want, and try again. It's all part of the process. When it comes to data processing, the o1 model is definitely not in its element. If you caught our DeepSeek guide, you might remember that it allows you to upload data files directly, but with o1, that's not an option. Instead, you've got to copy and paste your data manually. If it's a large data set, that can be a real chore. Thinking about that $200 subscription just for o1 Pro, take a moment to weigh your options. On paper, o1 Pro does edge out o1 on pretty much every task, but the difference ranges from barely noticeable to, yeah, that's kind of better. What you need to do first is to decide whether you really need this subscription. What are you gonna do? Because if you want to use it to learn about AI, even the $20 plus subscription might not be a good deal. Instead, you could join Geek Academy, where you'll get exclusive education materials, where you can ask the community for advice, use our tool finder to find the right tool for you, and even generate your own images. And you also get exclusive offers for different tools that are worth more than the cost of joining. From my own experience, o1 Pro is a solid step up for writing tasks. We use ChatGPT a lot for polishing our scripts, and we see it in action every day. o1 Pro produces text that reads more naturally with fewer repetitive patterns than o1. Don't get me wrong, o1 already offers a big improvement over 4.0, but if you do tons of writing like we do, it might be worth the extra cost to go Pro. In terms of limitations, o1 and o1 Pro are pretty much the same. Prompting works the same way, and all the tips I've given still apply. So if you're just dabbling, o1 might be enough. If you're heavily into writing and want that extra polish, o1 Pro could be worth the splurge. The o3 models are actually way more interesting than o1 in some respects, mostly because of how they came about, how limited they are, and why they were created. Essentially, OpenAI released them in response to DeepSeek, that wild AI you can run on your own machine, which basically has o1 level reasoning plus the ability to take file inputs. So o3 Mini is like a stripped down version of o1 that's built to handle specific tasks really fast. It doesn't have the same knowledge base or precision as o1, but it can still pull off some sophisticated reasoning, and it's almost twice as fast. That makes it perfect for something simple like quickly brainstorm design ideas for a fashion website where you don't need extreme precision, just quick results. If you look at what o3 Mini is good at, it's meant to be on par with o1 for logic-based tasks like math and coding, but at a higher speed. The tests that show o3 outperforming o1 are mostly in STEM fields, so if you're a developer, the o3 models might be your go-to. Seriously, you can say, generate a full Python library to parse and validate custom data in CSV format with unit tests and documentation. This is no small request, but o3 Mini can chew through it like a champ. It's great for quick brainstorming or finding errors in code. Just paste your code into the prompt and the AI will spot issues and suggest solutions. We've been doing this since ChatGPT first launched. Now it's even smarter, so we can pull off more complex tasks with better accuracy and control. You've now got a pretty solid grasp on how to prompt GPT-o1, but maybe you're asking, alright, I know the ropes, now what? Chances are you already have some ideas about how to use o1's advanced reasoning. To give you a few sparks of inspiration, let's look at some real-world scenarios, complete with example prompts and tips. Hands down, the biggest group that will love the new model is developers and coders. Let's be honest, who wouldn't want a bug fixed in seconds with a 99% success rate? Typical dev prompt might look like this. Because O1 understands code really well, it might zero in on a wrong condition or spot a tiny typo you've been missing. Then explain why it's an issue. If you're not happy with the fix, just tell ChatGPT to try again, change the style, or approach the problem in a different way. There are already stories floating around of coders who banged their head against a bug for hours, only for O1 to solve it in 3 minutes. Talk about a lifesaver. That said, don't rely only on O1. Sometimes the O3 models do a better job. For instance, one Redditor had a 1500-line code bug that stumped him for hours using O1 Pro. He finally switched to O3 Mini and got it fixed. Since it's easy to change models, if you find yourself stuck, just swap to another. If you're pressed for time, you might even start with O3 Mini High because it usually spits out a solid answer right away. Also remember that ChatGPT isn't your only option. A lot of devs use it for debugging or to draft an initial code skeleton, and then they will switch to Claude for the next steps. Different models can have different strengths, and sometimes the combo approach can yield really cool results. Most student tasks revolve around writing and research, so this is where deep research plus O1 can really shine. For example, you can say this: if you need actual citations with journal titles or publication years, just ask. That also makes fact-checking a breeze. I'd recommend running the same query a few times or regenerating responses. You might get different angles or more info that you can mix and match in your final essay. For me, O1 feels big because I use it a ton for writing and research. We've talked before about using AI to plan and refine scripts. Doing deep dives in new AI tools can eat up a lot of time, and drafting a script from scratch can be intimidating, so I often ask O1 for detailed review of a tool or feature. I don't let it write my full script, but it's awesome at refining what I already have. The final text feels less AI-ish with fewer patterns and more natural wording. Perfect for narrating on camera. We've even created a guide on how to prompt ChatGPT for writers, and it's available to all Geek Academy members. This is an advanced prompting method that Geek Academy will share exclusive education materials and lessons you won't see on YouTube. Handpicked AI tools, guides, and training for popular tools, unknown techniques for better prompting, all practical, easy to follow, with examples and detailed explanations. Here's a sample prompt from one of our guides you could try. That's great for planning your video or structuring your content. Ideation is another strong point for O1. You can ask it for video ideas if you're stuck. Just beware and get a bit lost in its own brainstorming, so give it some material to work from, like your previous scripts or rundown of your channel style. Teaching it your tone and approach makes the end result so much smoother. And don't forget to make the most of custom instructions. Fill them in with any specific style or formatting you want. If you're into data science, be aware that GPT-01 still feels a bit rough around the edges. Like I mentioned, it won't let you upload most file types, only images. That means if you want O1 to take a peek at a big dataset, you'll have to paste it as text. Of course, this can mess with formatting and readability, but it's worth a shot. A little workaround is to feed the file into GPT-4o first, get it nicely formatted or filtered, and then hand that trimmed down version to O1. Yeah, it's extra steps, but in a few months, OpenAI is likely to enable more file uploads, just like it did with 4o. When that happens, you will be able to do everything you do with 4o now, only better. If you're a researcher, you might have already guessed that deep research is practically your new best friend. Turn it on and you can really dig into literature, stats, or whatever you're studying. But don't just say make a literature review of modern research and quantum computing. Instead, get more specific like this. The more details you ask for, the more you'll get. That said, ChatGPT O1 isn't going to write your entire thesis for you, so it's best to break your big research project into smaller parts. That way you keep things organized and avoid overwhelming the model. Finance folks can really tap into O1's improved logic, especially with its image OCR skills. You could, for instance, upload a screenshot of stock performance stats and get a quick analysis, or flip on deep research and add something like this. And hey, don't forget to ask for links to the news sources. Makes your fact checking a whole lot easier. When it comes to prompts, aim high. If you've got opinions, share them. You know your own goals best, so be sure to tell ChatGPT exactly what you're after. Just remember, this is all for guidance. Don't take it as gospel truth. Stay cautious and make your own calls. O1 model you see now isn't going to be the same a year from today, but everything we've covered will still hold up. We'll probably take on more file types, get vision, learn to generate images with DALL-E 4, and a whole bunch more. When that happens, don't worry, we'll be right here with an updated guide. The biggest thing to remember about the O1 model, the O3 models, and how to prompt them is this. Don't limit yourself to just what I told you. Experiment, try different approaches, play with sleeker prompts, and dig into those hidden parameters. We poured our hearts into making it the ultimate hangout for AI nerds like you and me. Thanks for tuning in, and see you in the next one.